Take a deep breath, because some stories don't begin with pain. They begin with small changes you ignore until it's too late. I grew up believing that no matter what, my mother was my safe place. No matter what happened outside, I knew I could always come home. Even with our differences, our arguments, our silences, there was still something that connected us. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, until she met him. At first, I didn't see a problem. He was polite, quiet, seemed to respect boundaries. I even thought it might be good for her. After all, after so many years handling everything alone, maybe she deserved someone. And I truly tried to accept him, tried to adapt, tried to make it work. But what I didn't know is that some changes don't come to add, they come to reveal. As the days went by, I started noticing small things. Nothing obvious, nothing that would justify real concern, but enough to make me uncomfortable. It was the way my mother started looking at me, like she was analyzing every move I made, the way she became tense whenever I was around, the sudden silences that came out of nowhere, and I started asking myself, what did I do wrong? Because when something changes inside your home, the first thing you do is blame yourself. I started monitoring everything I did, the way I spoke, the way I walked, even the way I dressed. I avoided anything that could create conflict. I even avoided being in the same space as them. But none of that worked, because the problem was never what I was doing. It was something I couldn't see yet. When she decided he was going to move in with us, everything became clearer, and at the same time, more confusing. There was no conversation, no space for my opinion. It was simply a decision. And in that moment, I felt something strange, like I was losing space in my own home. And it wasn't about the room or the house. It was about presence. It was like, little by little, I was being pushed out without even realizing it. My mother started making comments she had never made before. You should dress differently. You don't need to walk around like that. Stay in your room more. At first, I thought it was concern, but over time, it started to sound different. It sounded like rejection, like my existence there was becoming a problem. Days passed, and I started to feel invisible, or worse, unwanted. I avoided leaving my room, avoided talking, avoided anything that could draw attention, and it slowly consumed me, because it's not just about being in a place, it's about feeling like you belong there, and I didn't feel that anymore. Until the day everything changed, the day she called me to talk. The atmosphere was already heavy, the look in her eyes, different, and when she started speaking, I realized this wasn't a conversation, it was a decision. She told me, without hesitation, that I had to leave. Just like that, direct, no preparation, no clear explanation. And when I asked why, she said something I will never forget. She said I was too beautiful to stay there, and that it could cause problems, that her boyfriend might become interested, and she didn't want to take that risk. In that moment, time stopped. I tried to understand, tried to find logic, but there was none. I was being kicked out for something that hadn't even happened, for something that wasn't even in my control. I was being treated like a problem simply for existing. And that breaks something deep inside you, because it doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from your mother, the person who was supposed to protect you. I tried to speak, tried to reason, told her it didn't make sense, but she didn't want to listen. Because when someone has already decided, nothing you say matters, nothing changes. And in that moment, I understood there was no space left for me there. Packing my things was one of the most painful experiences of my life, not because of the objects, but because of what they represented. Every piece of clothing, every memory, every detail carried a part of my story, and I was being forced to leave it all behind, in silence, without screaming, without begging, because deep down, I knew it wouldn't change anything. So I left, with my heart racing, afraid, not knowing where to go. And in that moment, I felt something I had never felt before, abandonment. Not just physical, but emotional, because being rejected by the person who should love you leaves marks that don't disappear. The first days were the hardest. I had no plan, no certainty. I slept in temporary places, relied on a few people, and faced a reality I never imagined I would live. And many times I thought about going back, thought about apologizing, even though I had done nothing wrong, thought about accepting everything just to have a place again. But something inside me wouldn't let me. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was pain, or maybe it was the first time I was choosing myself. And that choice, as hard as it was, kept me going. With time, I started to adapt. I found small jobs, began organizing my life, met people who treated me with respect, something I hadn't felt in a long time. And little by little, I rebuilt myself. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but it was real. Every small victory meant everything, because it represented something bigger, independence. And along with that came something even more important, awareness. I began to understand that the problem was never me. It was never my appearance. It was never who I am. It was the way my mother dealt with her own fears, insecurities, and choices. Today, I look back and see everything differently. It still hurts, the scars are still there, but now I understand. I understand that not every rejection is about you. Sometimes it's about the other person, their limitations, what they can't face, and that changes everything. Because when you understand that, you stop blaming yourself, and when you stop blaming yourself, you start to set yourself free. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of this story. Sometimes losing a place is what forces you to find your real path. Sometimes being rejected is what teaches you your worth. And sometimes the pain that felt like the end is just the beginning of something much bigger. Now tell me, if you were in my place, would you have had the courage to leave? Or would you have stayed trying to prove something to someone who had already decided not to see you? Because the truth is simple. Once you know your worth, no one can make you doubt it anymore.